This is episode 105 of Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews with interesting people. Joining me via Skype today, I have Lanessa Pierce. She's the woman behind What to Do in Southern Oregon. Hi.
Hi.
We're going to talk a lot about how you started this and how you've grown it and what it means and how people can tap into it. It's a really cool resource if you're new to the area, but also if you're a foodie. I look at some of the pictures and I'm like, where'd she get those donuts? Where can I find those donuts?
And we often end up at the same places.
It happens. It happens. Well,
It happens quite a bit.
I've met a lot of people who have appeared on this podcast at a winery or a restaurant or a bar. It's just like, oh, it's my life though.
Yeah, exactly.
And yours too.
Yes, it is.
Lanessa, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from, I grew up in Southern California.
Okay.
And the majority of my life in Southern California was in Garden Grove, California, which is in Orange County.
Orange County. What was that like?
It was I loved it. The biggest thing I loved is the fact that we were really close to the beach. We weren't a beach city, but we were 20 minutes from Huntington Beach. So that was one of the biggest things that I missed when I moved away. And also we literally the main street that I was off of was the street Disneyland was off of. So we could see the fireworks from our cul-de-sac.
That's so funny. I was just going to tell a quick story. My husband's from Huntington Beach, and he talks about growing up in Southern California, and they knew it was time to go home. If you're outside playing with your friends, they knew it was time to go home when the fireworks at Disneyland were going off.
Yeah, you can hear them. It's funny how you can hear the fireworks like pretty far around Disneyland. It's really neat.
Right.
And you can see them all over. Even my friend, she lived, well, if you could hear them in Huntington Beach, she lived in Westminster and she could see them from her house. So it's great.
Are you a Disney nerd?
Yes, I am. We love Disney.
So is my husband. He'll probably deny it if you ever ask him in person. Huge Disney nerd. In fact, we have a ginormous picture hanging up in our house of it's Mickey shaking the hand of a firefighter. It was during those wildfires. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that picture.
We have that hanging up in our house. So.
Is it autographed? There's the nerd. There would be the real Disney nerd.
Yeah, that would be the real Disney nerd. What is it about growing up in Southern California right next to this magical place, the happiest place on earth, Disneyland? It's just, I mean, I know I have a lot of people in my life who are from Southern California who grew up near Disneyland, and they're all just Disney nerds.
I don't know. One thing, it just makes it, when you, at least back then, now, I don't know what type of things they do for locals, but it was really inexpensive for us to go back then. It's not like now where it takes like a year's worth of salary to go with a family of 4. But we went so much. It's just, anybody knows, you go to Disneyland and it's like so clean. It's obviously staged. It's just beautiful. And so then you have this, especially when you're a kid, everything's just so happy. And it, like, even we were in a middle-class neighborhood. So it's not like we lived in this perfect neighborhood. We were just a middle-class neighborhood that we lived in. But just being so close to Disney, a lot of our friends, even in high school, worked there. In fact, one time I was at Disneyland and Goofy started talking to me because he knew me, but he couldn't tell me who he was. That really freaked me out. That was funny though. I was a junior in high school. No, excuse me, a sophomore in high school. And it was kind of our playground.
Sure.
Because we would go on the weekend and we did all the things where we would dress up they had a 50s day for a few years, and we would all dress up in poodle skirts and everything, and we would go and have fun with our friends. And it was like kind of like going to the mall. Our parents would drop us off and we'd go to Disneyland.
Beautiful.
Also, and we'd go to Knott's Berry Farm too. Knott's Berry Farm was, because it was less expensive than Disneyland too. So that's the beauty of living in Orange County, is that we're in just about it's just like here, you just have to find the things that is unique to your area. And we would go skiing up at Snow Summit. We didn't, Big Bear Mountain is the big place to ski, but there was a smaller resort called Snow Summit that was less expensive, and we were always on a budget. And so we went to Snow Summit, and that's where I learned to ski. We would go to the beach all the time. That was another thing. We'd go after school.
Right.
We'd go to the beach and hang out at the beach for a couple hours.
What a life. What a life.
Yeah, it was definitely a it was very a privileged life. We had a lot of fantastic things growing up.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
What my parents wanted. They moved us to Orange County so that we could experience so many things in Southern California.
Move from where?
Well, we lived in Huntington Beach, and then my dad was moving, or we did move to Washington for 1 year, and then we lived in the it's Covina. I don't know if you know where Covina. It's off the 210. So it's in the kind of going towards the Inland Empire, more of the hotter area. That's where. So I kind of, when I was a small child, I grew up with my grandma Pomona, because my parents were both full-time working, and my mom had 2 jobs actually. But my dad worked in LA. He actually worked right off of Skid Row. So if you can imagine it took him 2 hours each way to get home. It was ridiculous. And so often I would stay, my kindergarten year started with my grandmother in Pomona, which is they call it the Inland Empire. And I would be with her and my aunt. They started me in kindergarten, and then we moved I was born right there in Montclair, and then we moved over to Covina, and I did my kindergarten, first grade year there. And then we moved to Washington, then we moved to Huntington Beach for a year, and then we moved to Garden Grove. That's why I say most of it from my 4th grade through my junior, senior year was in Garden Grove.
What'd your parents do growing up?
My dad was, he's a graphic designer, or back then it was called color separation. He did lithographics. And so he actually worked for a company that printed all the posters for the movies and album covers. And he had a specialty had a specific specialty where he's really good at color separation and graphic design. But this is like more not as digital as things are now.
Right.
Yeah. And then when we moved up, he got a really good job up here with commercial printing. Everyone sees it over by Harry and David. It's a big, huge warehouse area. That's where he retired. Which, funny enough, they actually do Apple's manuals, but probably not now anymore.
Wow.
But so they print up big corporate jobs up here in commercial printing, and they wanted my dad because of his specialty, because of what exactly he needed to do.
Sure. So you guys actually moved from Garden Grove up to Southern Oregon at some point?
Yes.
When was that?
My parents moved here first in 1991. And I finished high school. I graduated a year early as a junior, and I came up in 1992.
Okay.
So they let me stay with my friend that actually bought the house for my parents, and I stayed there with them.
That's nice.
For a year,
I know.
6 months.
I moved from South Carolina to Las Vegas when I was 16, and
oh gosh,
right, it's so disruptive in high school when
you're a teenager.
And it's crazy culture shock, but I always say that was a very good thing for me, because it sort of like opened my eyes a little bit to other things, from the South. So you move up here after graduating. What do you want to do with yourself?
I hated Southern Oregon.
Lanessa.
I know. I know. Isn't that crazy?
Why? What did you hate about it? When this is, let's be fair, this is in 92.
92.
Okay.
So my parents obviously made the decision with us. Also, my mom, she worked from home. She was a word processor, and they were tired of Southern California life. But as a teenager, I don't see that. The rat race and I know now, I realize my dad was driving. It was exhausting them to have to drive on that freeway.
Sure.
And the 60 is a terrible freeway to be. Even he worked in the city of industry. towards the end of living in Southern California, and it still took him 45 minutes to get literally 20 miles.
Yeah, no thanks.
So yeah, it was terrible. But I did not want to leave my friends.
Mm.
It was so bad. And also I was a beach baby. I mean, riptide, wet riptide. I grew up swimming riptide, and I'd end up a mile down the beach and I would just walk back. Now it's like, oh my gosh, if you get caught in a riptide, you could
Yeah.
die. But that's how I was a beach baby. I loved it. I didn't want to see anything positive about Southern Oregon.
Dang.
Then I moved up here, and I had a couple friends, but I didn't want to see the positive yet.
Mm.
And like the only thing we had to do was the Dollar movie theater. Everybody remember the Dollar movie theater?
Well,
Uh,
I don't, but I didn't live here then. So that
oh,
sounds
okay,
like
yeah.
a
There was,
pretty sweet deal. Dollar movie theater. I'm in.
where the blood donation is right there behind Bobbio's.
Yes.
That was a movie theater, and it
Oh,
was $1. Yeah, it was $1 to get in. So anyways, and I didn't really start, and everyone was saying there was nothing to do here. I
mm.
kept hearing there is nothing to do here, especially when you're a teenager. There's nothing to do here. So it took me a couple years, and then started going camping. My dad's a huge outdoor person. He actually grew up in Klamath Falls,
Okay.
so that's how he knew about the area. And when he came up, we were going to move to Ashland first because it's such a cute little town.
Hmm.
And then we realized we could get more bang for our buck in Medford.
Yeah.
And so we moved in. We lived right behind North Medford High School. And yeah, it took me a couple years, and then I started falling in love with Southern Oregon.
Well, what did it for you?
I don't know. Just getting out and experiencing things.
Hmm.
Camping is a big thing. We tent camp, and what better way to experience everything? I started making more friends who had interests that had outdoor interests. I really started getting into hiking a little bit here and there. Um, and then I met Gary, and that sealed the deal, my husband.
Yeah.
And um, that was in 1995. So it'd been a few years,
A,
but
a cute
uh,
guy does it every time, doesn't it?
right.
You fall in love, and all of a sudden you're like, I love Southern Oregon. This place is great.
I love it. Funny enough, he's from Riverside, California too.
Yeah, that is funny.
So and his mom lived like literally within miles of one of my aunts in Ontario. So it was kind of just interesting how the whole dynamic worked.
Small world.
Yeah.
So you're a
Yeah.
young adult in Southern Oregon. You meet your future husband. What are your plans in life? Like, what are you doing? What are you like? This is what I want to be when I grow up.
So honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Well, I did. So my daughter actually asked me all the time, when you were little, what did you want to do? I wanted to be a school teacher, and I wanted to be a writer. So those were always in the back of my mind, but I couldn't afford to go to school. And at the time, I was in my early 20s, and
Hmm.
all we did was honestly party with our friends.
Hey,
Um,
sounds great.
we had Ground Zero. I don't know if
Oh,
you've heard.
yes. No, I do remember Ground Zero. Yikes.
Yeah, but really, it was such an we were there every. I'll say it, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. We were there. I worked at Sears. That's where Gary and I met. I worked
Okay.
at Sears, and I worked there for 6 years. And I was a manager I worked in lingerie first, moved into the hardware department or the paint department, and that's when I met Gary, my husband. And then I was supervisor of paint for a little while, then moved into hardware because I could make commission.
Okay. I like
And
how you
then
went from the lingerie department to the paint
I know
department.
it was just more opportunity.
That's great.
And actually that was really fun. I learned a lot about
Sure.
tools, learned how to use power tools. And then I moved into jewelry. They got a jewelry department at Sears. So I started selling jewelry.
So
And
go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead. And at that time, I moved. I started working at Roadhouse Grill, the original Roadhouse Grill on
Okay.
the highway, and I worked there for 6 years also. So I was doing two jobs, and then eventually I went over to work at Roadhouse Grill as a waitress for years.
So talk to me about what to do in Southern Oregon. Where did this idea, how did it come to you? Where were you in life when you were like, huh, this is an idea?
So I had my first child, Elias, and we would always. We don't just sit still. We usually go and do a lot of things. We do a lot of things, and we would go to the coast, and I would always be like, okay, what's there to do in Brookings? And what's there to do in Bandon? Because Bandon's one of our regular trips.
Love
And so
Bandon.
I was always, yeah, we love Bandon.
Love it.
It's like our second home type thing. We make sure we go there every year, once or twice a year. Um, we I would research what to do in Bandon, and like even the little things like what to do for 4th of July, what to do. And I'm like, gosh, it would be so nice. And I was always researching on the internet and finding all these, but it was all spread out. Um, so that was number one. Number two, my sister owned a magazine and at the time, and we actually talked about starting a mom Southern Oregon parent magazine.
Mm-hmm.
She actually had a couple published magazines, and this is one that she wanted to um, get writers and whatnot. And so we wanted to see if it would be a need in Southern Oregon. So I started What to Do in Southern Oregon, the Facebook page.
Okay, so that was kind of your research, right? To see if
Hmm.
this magazine would actually have readers to support it.
Yes. To see if there would be someone to support it. And since I was already doing all this research, I was like, why don't I bring it together to one place? Not just the Rogue Valley, but all over our Southern Oregon area. That's why it wasn't just What to Do in Medford, Oregon, or What to Do in the Rogue Valley. That's why it was What to Do in Southern
Mm-hmm.
Oregon, because we can't we especially at the time we couldn't afford to, as a small family. My husband was just starting in his job. We couldn't afford to travel very far, so we're like, okay, why don't we travel our own area as much as we can? And
Sure.
thus I brought it all together.
How old were you when you kind of started this online Facebook page?
I'm gonna tell my age. 37.
Okay. So that's, I mean, just from experience, that would freak me out a little bit, being 37 and going, okay, I'm going to start this and maybe start a magazine. I mean, was it scary for you, or was it just like, I'm already doing it, I'm just going to go for it?
Yeah, it wasn't actually scary at all. At the time I was working at Bamboo
Okay.
on North Phoenix Highway, and then I got pregnant and I couldn't work, so I was at home a lot with my son, and um, we worked it out so I could stay home. And so I was basically just sharing my knowledge, all the knowledge that I had already was learning already.
What kind of feedback were you getting as soon as you started posting this stuff on
Oh, I
Facebook?
was getting great feedback. A lot
Really?
of people were like, we love this page. We love what you're doing. For the most part, there was a few people, because I do share some local haunts, that people would get angry with me at times because they're like, why are you telling people about this place? But my rule of thumb is, I know, my rule of thumb is, if it's on Google Maps, it's not a private place.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've learned in the news business for 18 years now, there's always going to be some trolls. One of my favorite quotes on the planet is, you can be the juiciest, ripest peach, but not everybody likes peaches. So there's always going to
Correct. Yeah.
be someone who's going to have an issue with your success and your happiness.
To find the negative, yeah, in what you're doing.
I mean, and yeah, were you unveiling some hidden gems in Southern Oregon, or were you just really going? And to me, it's sharing the love, right? Especially if this potential
Yeah.
business owner or whatever you're sharing is going to get some new customers out of it. That's a win-win.
Yeah. It's the business is not necessarily that people always love. Well, the food is always just a big hit. Everybody loves a new restaurant or a new winery if they're going to find. It was more that sometimes like some of the swimming spots or,
Oh,
but I believe it or not, I have some spots I have not shared. And those are for our community, those are for me and my family or my friends who share them with me. I
really?
always have to, yeah, I say, if they give me one of their private spots, I'm not going to share that. That's because there's a lot of undiscovered country in Southern Oregon. There's a lot of beautiful
For
little
sure.
swim spots and places to go.
That's very
So
that's very ethical of you. But I may be
Trish was
asking
like,
you later. I may be texting you later. What you talking about? Um, so as far as some of these, well, let's get back to this Facebook page. It evolves, right? I mean, it just
oh, totally.
grows and grows and grows. How so?
Well, it started out as a Facebook page. I got the interest and I was like, I really need to get this more even honed down. And so I started my website. It started out with spotlight pages, like all the 4th of July. Well, actually, my very first spotlight page was harvest, things to do in the fall. And so it was all the pumpkin patches and
Yeah.
one I did pumpkin patches and one was all the harvest festivals.
What do you mean
Um,
spotlight page? Sorry. What do you mean by that?
well, I call it spotlighting what all the pumpkin patches.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's just a page of pumpkin patches, and then it's a page of harvest festivals with all the info, and then it grew into all the things to do for Christmas, holiday. But I have a whole page of holiday bazaars. That's how it started. Then I started my Instagram page, and that caught traction. So at little by little, I've built onto it, and it just continues to grow.
Really quickly, I've never heard of Holiday Bazaar until I moved to Southern Oregon. What the hell's a
Oh, really?
Holiday Bazaar?
It's well, they're craft shows, holiday craft shows,
Okay.
and there's a lot of them in
Yeah,
Southern Oregon.
they're everywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of the for the makers.
Yeah.
It's kind of the what they all year is for. They make most of their money during that time of year, from the late October into to the end of December is the big time for makers.
Okay.
So they kind of like, there's like the Barnstormers Fair, if you've heard of it. A lot of
Yes.
makers will make just for that one event. This is like the big time of year where this carries their income throughout the rest of the year.
Do you know why it's called a bazaar?
Oh, it's like, well, I don't know but a bazaar is like an Egyptian bazaar,
Oh.
where they sell things like
Oh.
trade wares and all
Okay.
that type of stuff.
Hey, makes sense.
So,
I had never heard of that moving out here. And then, I mean,
oh,
I,
really?
I could pick it up. I'm like, okay, it's crafts and people are selling them. I get it. But you're right. They are everywhere when holiday time
Yeah.
rolls around.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how it's going to be this year. I know everybody's been,
Yeah.
a lot of my maker friends have, you know what I noticed? I scratch my head a lot.
It's
Like,
okay. I notice
so
someone
good
sent
at
me
not doing it.
someone sent me an email. A viewer sent me an email because they watched this podcast. Who, I can't remember who it was, and that viewer was like, "You touch your face a lot."
Oh, really?
I can't. You know what it is? It's years of makeup and years of hair and trying to like look as professional as you can. It
Yeah.
just happens. It's like a nervous tick at this point. Anywho,
Yeah.
so now you
So
know
yeah,
you scratch your
I keep going like this, and I'm like, I don't have bugs. I
maybe
don't know. I just washed my hair.
maybe this is your thinking. This is your like, what am I going to say next? Tick,
That's what it is.
right?
Think, think, think. Yeah, that
Exactly.
must be it.
So this evolves. You have a website. You have a blog essentially, right? Where you're writing up adventures and
Yes.
you're writing up, I went here, go check it out. Like this is a full on, I mean, full-time job for you.
Yeah, essentially, yes. Yes.
So
And I also, I'm
go,
sorry, go ahead.
no, please.
It's become a full time, and after writing for myself um, and my social media, it's even grown more that people ask me to write for them and do their social media for them
Yeah.
also. So,
Well, if you think about it, you have become an expert on what to do in Southern Oregon. I mean, that's the name of this little,
Hmm.
I mean, is it fair to call it a business?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm a licensed business through the city, and I own the name and everything.
And I think for when I first discovered you, I was just like, I want to do that. I want to go eat
Hmm.
and camp and discover places and make that my living. Like, how does one even begin to do that? I mean, it's not as easy as we're sitting back here and just like looking at this life that you've created for yourself. It's not that easy.
No, it's not. There's a lot of groundwork. I mean, I have to constantly, number one, update my website, which I'm really behind on right now. But it's honing the pictures. My husband's become part of it too. He's a really great food photographer. I take my family with me. Often, sometimes if I'm doing a story, it's like, what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're chasing a story, you have to go to the place, and you maybe not always have the time to do it, but you make the time to do it. Um, what's ideal is the fact that I get to do it at home and on the road. Um, we um, like our vacations are planned out to do something new, which I love that part of it because it pushes us. Though we go to Bandon every year, we always look for the new and unique things to do. Um, Around this area, even have you ever been to I don't know how to say it, Tilomeek Falls in Gold Hill?
Uh, if it's on the rafting trip, I want to say yes, but maybe not.
It's where the storytelling stone is.
Okay, no,
No.
I don't think so. No.
So I just learned about that, and it's in Gold Hill, and I'm writing a story right now with Travel Southern Oregon, and it's about Gold Hill's part of the story. And I went and visited some place that's just 20 miles up the road from me.
Hmm.
So that's what's it's like digging deep to find the small things and the cool things that are just right here often. We have just like our food scene, our food scene's amazing, and often people don't. We all get in the habit of just going to the same places, but when you try something new, so yeah, it's been quite an experience to try different foods. My kids are foodies too, so
Thank
um,
goodness.
that's a good and bad thing.
They're like, you make dinner, and they're like, I'm not eating this.
It doesn't have enough flavor. Can you please add more?
That's great. Now, here's a question. Do you share, I mean, most of the experiences you share are positive. It's, I had
Right.
this, I had this chicken sandwich from Over Easy today. It's incredible.
Oh,
Braden, you're great, right? That chicken sandwich is
I know you love
dreams.
it too. We love it. That chicken is dreamy. Holy cow.
Oh, it's so good. The first one I had, I shared it with my husband. That was the dumbest thing I've ever done.
No, you can't share that.
So stupid. Um, but do you ever have an experience or eat somewhere and you're not a big fan? Do you share that too?
I always share the positive. I do know my word, what to do in Southern Oregon's word has power. And since I want to help local businesses, if if I go to a business and it's lackluster to me, I just won't share it.
So
Because
hold
I
up,
don't.
playing devil's advocate though, is that, I mean, is that really fair? Like, I want to hear about some of the bad experiences so I know not to go there, but is that just not part of what you want to do?
Um, I understand. I do understand that, and I do want to be, So when it comes to like, it may like a business. For instance, we went to a museum, and it was not worth our money, and so I said, made they're doing a remodel. It was
Hmm.
a little bit overpriced, and I'm hoping for next time that it will. I don't always give a 5-star review,
Sure.
you know. So I will find the thing that I enjoy about it, and that's the whole thing. If it's food, a lot of our businesses are owned by small, privately owned people, and my taste isn't everybody's taste. I
Yeah.
view that. I understand that too. Sometimes, like I've people told me I love blah 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 blah's food, and I go and I'm like, oh, that wasn't very good,
Hmm.
and so that's okay for other people to have different tastes than me. I'm good with that, of course. but I don't want to hurt a business by me sharing something that was my own opinion, unless it was completely terrible and there was rats on the ground or, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but me not saying something is more of, I think, a review than saying something mean or distasteful about them, because I do want to support small local businesses.
100%.
So, and I've had small businesses, ask me to come eat at their restaurant, and I said, okay, I will, but I want to let you know, if I don't put a picture up or a review up, it's because it wasn't to my taste. So be aware that you may not get a picture from that.
That's fair, and I think that's totally legit. I just know I worked in the food industry for through high school and college, and I tend to give restaurants, especially small businesses like that, a little bit of slack, because I know it could have just been a bad day. Like if I go and I don't have a great experience, it could be just a bad day. And I've read reviews on restaurants in newspapers, and anytime there's like a negative, like this wasn't so great or the service, I feel for them. I'm just like, oh, maybe they're having a bad day. Like give them a little slack. And I just know there's a lot of people who aren't tolerant of that at all, and that's just unfortunate, because I just think within a restaurant, I don't know, sometimes they just have a bad day, and it's not always going to be perfect every time you go.
Correct. And I think of one restaurant. I don't base my opinion off of one visit either.
Right.
I go 2 to 3 times and see, okay, maybe they had an off day. I've heard a lot of people say this is really good, but maybe it's just not, maybe I need to try something else. So I'll go and try something different and see if I like something. I get spoiled? Yes, we get spoiled because we eat at a lot of really good places with chefs that create amazing flavors, and so sometimes I have to give the benefit of the doubt that this is just not in my flavor profile that I like, because I like big, bold flavors. A lot of, like that chicken sandwich, there's a lot of flavors and levels and homemade pickles. And now I want one, Braden.
I know, Braden. We need a chicken Sammy. What have been some of your, and just to we can kind of put a cap on this conversation. I agree. Yes. If I post anything on my social media accounts, whether about, supporting a local business, it's because I love that local business. And I'm not about to get out there and be like, hey, we went here today and it sucked. Don't go. Like, I'm never going to do that, because that's nasty. And my mantra these days is positive energy begets positive energy. So I'm just not doing it.
Yes, I try to be positive all the time. So it's not, even if we get a bad server somewhere, I'm like, sometimes, we all have bad days. Some days I don't want to leave the house, but some people have to work no matter if they're having a bad day. So
right. Yeah. No, I agree. I cut them some slack, probably more than I should, but I don't care. Some of your adventures, let's talk about that. What have been some of your favorite places to visit? Even things around here to do locally, meaning like obviously Southern Oregon, but whether it's a hike or it's a camping spot or it's a swimming hole that you can talk about. Like, what are some of your favorite adventures?
Oh, by far, the number one that pops into my head is Gary and I went hiking in the Umpqua, and we went during the winter. We went in February, and it was Tokatee Falls.
Okay.
And it was Tokatee Falls and Watson Falls and the hot springs, and nobody was there because it's winter. And we had to we had to snow hike in for, it was like 3 extra miles in the snow, and then to get to the Umpqua hot springs. Tokatee was a little bit easier, and we did the bad thing and went down to the bottom because you're not supposed to.
Ooh.
But I know. But it was so, like the Umpqua, we just got back from there doing some more hikes there this last week. And it's just magical. It's so green and lush and just beautiful. And then also, for campgrounds, we just went to Union Creek Campground, and we camped by the creek. and my daughter, she said that there was fairies living there. And when she says fairies are living there, you know that it's an enchanting place.
That's
That's like
magical. I love
on
that.
the fairy scale, it was magical, and she saw fairies everywhere. So it's right along the road. You can take Union Creek, do a little hike up
Uh-huh.
the Union Creek Trail, and it meets up with the Rogue River. And we found a little spot. We just hung out. She found ostrich eggs, according to her, and
Wow.
built a little house and a dam and everything.
Oh, I love
It's
her.
such a beautiful campground. It's no hookups. We had a little water spigot, but we tent camp, so um, it's just a beautiful. I think that's my favorite spot that I found besides camping in Bandon. We
Hmm.
love camping in Bandon at Bullard's Beach.
So on this hike in Umpqua, did you guys go in the hot springs?
Yes, it was
Nice.
absolutely beautiful,
And no one
and
was
it was
there.
just no one was there, and there was just the two of us, so you
So
know what happened.
wink, wink. I get it, Kinky. Um,
No,
s-
it was not that far. We just went nude.
well, so I have read about these hot springs in hiking books, and they all have the warning. It's a popular spot, so
Hmm.
be careful because you could stumble upon it and see a whole bunch of naked people.
Yes. So one day we were by ourselves and we went in nude. The next day we went and there was nobody there for the first hour. My husband loves hot springs, so we went 2 days in a row. There was no one there for the first hour, and then another couple showed up, and then a bunch of teenagers showed up, and we're all nude,
Okay.
and nobody. It wasn't like it was. I know it sounds weird,
No, no
but
judgment. No judgment at all.
there was there was no judgment at all. Everybody was like sitting there talking, and you just kind of avert your eyes. um, and we were sitting down in our pool. A couple came up and started talking to us, and that was a little uncomfortable. I just kind of went, yeah. But
But at the
no,
same time,
it's so magical
yeah,
there.
you chose to do this and go in this hot spring, and that's just what you have to deal
Right?
with if that's what
Yeah.
if you want to go. Um, are they? I have been in hot springs before. Are these stinky? Do they smell like sulfur?
Um, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, they did a little bit,
Are they
but not.
clear?
It was too bad. No. Well, one or two of them were because there was at Umpqua. There's one, two. There's I think 5 or 6, and some of them are more mossy than others because
Oh,
it's all
okay.
it's natural. They're natural hot springs, so
Right. I've heard
there's
they're
nobody.
amazing. I've heard they're absolutely
Yeah, there's
amazing.
no there's some of them are mossier than others, and then you'll kick if you drudge it up and then the mossiness
Okay.
comes up in the water, but
Are there like
it's
natural
amazing.
places to sit too within the hot springs?
Yes. So
Crazy.
they have like some of them are man-made, as in they've
Mm.
put like it's almost like a rock hot tub. They haven't poured cement or anything, but yeah, there's seating areas in them. One of them is under at Umpqua. There's one is under a gazebo, and
Okay.
we didn't sit in that one. And then there's graffiti, and I think the teenagers like
Ah.
to sit there. Yeah, there was a bit of trash up there. That was the disappointing part. We came up the second day and brought a whole garbage bag full down, like a Glad bag that we hiked out with us.
Oh, that's
That was
nice.
just yeah.
That's
Oh
really
yeah,
nice of
that's
you.
what we do. We always bring garbage bags with us when we go hiking to pick up. I'm trying to teach my kids that to leave no trace.
That's beautiful. Good
So
karma. Good karma for you. I think
yes.
you're a pretty horrible level of human if you litter. I'm sorry.
Yeah, why?
I don't
It doesn't make
understand.
sense.
I don't
I don't
understand
understand
littering.
littering. My kids don't either. They get really upset. They're like, "Why do people throw that?" And I'm like, "I have no explanation why. It's
Yeah.
just pure laziness, I guess. I don't know. It just feels lazy to me.
I
That's
put
all."
I put litterers right up there with people who don't return the shopping cart.
Ooh, you're one of those. We were just talking about that.
I
Almost 100% of the time I do. I don't 100% of the time. I'm sorry.
Well, Lanessa, I'm going to be watching you. The next time I
No,
see
I
you
do
at
most of the time.
next time I see you at Trader Joe's, and if you've got a shopping cart, I'm just going to watch you until you return it.
I always return the shopping cart at Trader Joe's. I've never not returned the shopping cart at Trader Joe's.
I just posted something on my Facebook page about of the philosophy behind those who don't return the shopping cart. It's pretty comical, And I had so many people comment on it. It got so many people fired up. So
Oh,
you'll have to go
kind of.
read it after this conversation. You'll have to go read
I'll
it. I
have to
think
go
you'll,
read it.
yeah,
Sure.
you'll get a kick out of it.
Gary will get a kick out of it too, because he's like, I can't believe people don't return the shopping cart.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, Gary's got my back. So those
I
are
got your back too.
okay.
Gary.
Thank you. Well, you will now.
For sure.
So those are some of your favorite adventures. What about? Let's talk about food.
Ooh, wow. Favorite food. What are we talking about in favorite food?
What are some of your favorite spots? I know you were recently just at the farmers market, which I haven't been in months, and I'm super sad about it. But there is so much good stuff at our farmers market. So much.
Gosh, it's so hard because it depends on what kind of mood you were in. You know, of course, one of my ultimate favorites, Truffle Pig Craft Kitchen.
Skylar is
Skylar is fantastic. Yeah.
Yes.
He's a magician, especially with, I like his vegetarian dishes a lot, because I feel like you're a special chef when you can make, because it takes so much more thought to make vegetables and vegetarian food taste really good instead of just vegetables. And so I always get his vegetarian dishes, and and oh my gosh, his menu this week, there's a vegetarian taco on there that has my name on it.
It's like I think it's like a sweet potato taco, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they're so good. You should get them, Trish.
Okay.
I promise.
Can I say I'll get the vegetarian tacos with a side of pork belly?
Sure.
That's always how I roll.
It's meaty. It's meaty. Believe it or not, it's meaty with the sweet potato. So it's so good.
Okay.
So if we're talking about the growers market, Truffle Pig Craft Kitchen, and I had a newer truck is the Arepas truck.
Okay.
Have you had that?
No.
He's there, but he's also at Flywheel Bicycles in Talent on a regular basis. Oh my gosh, phenomenal! We got the meat, the carne, and it had avocado and this spicy sauce on it. It was wonderful.
And what's it called again?
One. It's called Alfredo's Arepas.
Okay, so
Arepas. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's spelled Arepas.
So he specializes in what?
The arepa. It's kind of like a taco, but what it is, it's like the masa is like that you use for corn tortillas is thicker, and then they cut a pouch in it and they stuff it full of goodies.
Okay. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about now. Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh my, phenomenal.
So it's like
Wonderful.
it's like a Mexican pita-ish, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good analogy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so good. That's one of the things that I've been craving. With my daughter loved it too. Let's see who else. Oh, I always love Sam Sultan's Delight.
Of course.
His
Yeah.
his gyros are wonderful.
We need to talk about the donuts that you posted a while back. Their little stand.
Snowball.
Yeah, I believe their little stand is over by Les Schwab, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
how good were those donuts?
Oh my gosh, they're super fluffy inside and crispy on the outside. So like a little bit of crispy on the outside, and then you can get maple bacon. You can get Nutella. We love the Nutella with powdered sugar.
Love it.
It's really good. He has a cinnamon sugar.
Yeah, they
and they're
looked
the best
amazing.
too.
They looked amazing. Do you find yourself when someone either asks you or you overhear someone talking about, hey, where should I go to dinner tonight? Because this is what happens to me. I tend to just take over the conversation, and I'm like, well, what would you like? Where do you want to go? You can go here. You can also go here. And then if you go here, you could go there after. Like, I just am so obnoxious.
You get the whole itinerary of where to go next. Completely, yes. If I overhear, I'm like, okay, wait a second. Here, this is what you got to do and what order you got to do it in. Especially downtown Medford, or if you go to Ashland, you can give them a whole itinerary of where to, start with cocktails here, then go to dinner here, then dessert, and you can have an after dinner cocktail here. And if you have room, go have dessert here. You know, that's, that type of thing. Because it can't be all in one place. Everyone can't be good at everything, right?
No, and I find myself doing that exact same thing. Even we'll be out somewhere and I overhear a conversation, and I'm that person who goes, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but if you're in Ashland, I would go here for dinner. Like, I just am that such an obnoxious person about that.
I don't think it's obnoxious, and actually, usually people appreciate it.
Yeah, usually. And even here at KTVL, I have become anytime we have a new hire, new reporter, and they're like, my parents are in town, are there any good wineries? And everyone's like, ask Trish. So I've become that
Yeah, I
person.
don't even.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it too. That's what I often. Not right now, please. Not right now, please. That was my child.
Sorry, kiddo, we're
Yeah,
almost done.
people will message me and ask me, oh, they're moving to the area, or they want to go out for a date night, or and then they'll say, we want to go from Grants Pass to Medford. Where can we go? They'll give me a place and I'll give them a list, and I'll tell them the good and bad. This place has great food but bad service. This place has great cocktails. This place, because there's, like I said, I don't expect perfection from restaurants.
Totally.
If you're putting out great, I mean, there are some who have great service, great food, everything's spot on, but it doesn't. I'm not of that mindset that it has to all be perfect, because it's hard, especially in this day and age.
Right. And I'm curious for you specifically, I've interviewed people who have had these very successful jobs, or maybe not, and they have this sort of aha moment of, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to support myself. How does What to Do in Southern Oregon, how does this help support your family? For people out there who are like an entrepreneur wannabe, if they're like, I want to do something like Lanessa did, how did you start that process of like going, this is my passion, this is what I love, and I'm going to help support my family by doing this?
Number one, you have to be ready to do the work without pay. I started What to Do in Southern Oregon as a passion project, and for 2 years I made $0. I mean, I didn't get any. The recognition was it's real people following me, so they couldn't. They're not going to give me money. It's because they're following me because they like what I'm doing. And slowly, businesses started asking me, hey, can I advertise do you allow people to advertise on your page? And so it was literally 2 years of zero pay. And I was fortunate that my husband, number one, has a good enough paying job that he could support that venture. But also, I was also I did become a preschool teacher for a short period of time, and I was going to be able to take my daughter with me to work and be my son's preschool teacher. I think I was teaching him, but anyways, and then it turned around. It was with Medford Parks and Recreation, and then they had to go for an accreditation. They told me I couldn't bring her to work with me anymore. So that kind of just fizzled out, and I was like, okay, I have to figure something else to do. So I was willing to put in the legwork, and I put in a lot of hours. I was working full time for free for myself, of course.
Sure.
And so, and also be willing to, because this is a community, while it's my business, it's also to talk about our community. And so I would look at from all directions, and I just totally lost my thought.
No.
So anyways, go ahead.
Looking back though, the 2 years working for free, gradually you have businesses going, hey, you're getting popular, and that speaks a lot for businesses. Hey, I want to advertise with you because I see all these people following you over here. That's good for me, and it's good for you. So looking back, would you do it all over again?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And the relationships I've built, this is another thing that one of my favorite things that has come out of this is the relationships and the people that I've met. I built one of my best friends I met through one of her sip and paints. Actually, not sip and paints. I took my son for paint lessons to her, and she was a homeschool mom, and she was teaching kids how to paint from her house.
Wow.
And now she's one of my best friends. That's those kind of relationships I built. For a while, I was working with White's Country Farm before it closed. For 4 years, we created these amazing events, and within that, I kept meeting new people, vendors, makers. That's how I got to know the food trucks. I also was on the board for Medford Comic Con. I volunteered for that. I met all the food trucks through that because I'm obviously a social person. Um, but I've created some really great relationships out of it. And um, that's the most meaningful thing to me out of it, is the connection, not only myself, but my family and my children have with this community, because I love Southern Oregon community.
Yeah.
So it's been
I
a
love it
definite
too.
blessing to my family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm glad, and I know Southern Oregon, we're pretty lucky to have you kind of making sure we're hitting all those fun spots. And honestly, it's not just about food, right? It's getting outside, it's taking your kids for that cool hike that you found that your kids loved. It's taking your kiddos to camp by the creek where the fairies live. I mean, it's really about making
Right.
memories.
Totally. That's exactly outdoor memories, food memories, um, all of it.
I love it.
It's definitely been a great voyage for us, and it's hopefully to continue on for years.
Very cool. How has what to do in Southern Oregon changed since this pandemic? I mean, we're talking about it is your job to tell us what to do in Southern Oregon, and for a few months,
Yeah.
there wasn't anything to do.
I got blindsided at first. I was frozen. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?"
Yeah.
It's based off events. Um, so I had to regroup. I had to sleep for 4 days, and then and then I started being like, well, I started creating let's a takeout page.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course we kept eating out as we saved a lot of money, honestly, because we weren't eating out as much
Sure.
for coffees and whatnot. But I we ate out a lot when we were staying home most of the time. And then also we went hiking a
Mm-hmm.
lot. We started focusing on the hikes. I didn't share a lot of the hikes because I didn't want our trails to get over flooded with people, because there were so many, oops, um, um,
My
because
trails.
there were so many people home.
Sure.
And I actually got a lot of blowback from people like, don't share trails. And so I was cautious about how I was sharing it. And I was also cautious about, I shared what we had going on here. Now there's no events still. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
don't have any of our large events. We lost Southern Oregon Craft Brew Festival.
Yeah.
You know, we know Barnstormers. We know a lot of summer events stopped. So now I'm focusing a lot. I just had to shift my mindset
Sure.
and go, I have a big tool here I need to use. Um, Now I need to start writing about a lot of things that I didn't have time to do because we were out doing so much of the
Mm-hmm.
events. And so I'm catching up on my writing, and a lot more outdoor stuff
Perfect.
is coming. Yeah.
You know, you just shift, you change. It was the same thing,
Mhm.
not to make a comparison, but with this little podcast that I do, I was interviewing
Oh, for
people
sure.
in person and having a great old time at it, and then all of a sudden we can't do that anymore. So what do? Hey, there's this thing called Skype. You just evolve. You just
Yeah.
move with it. Otherwise, you get left behind.
Exactly. I had to
Wh-
do, and then the food scene has helped a lot too.
sure,
We've had a few restaurants open during the pandemic, which is unique.
crazy.
And so that's been fun. I mean, Fat Kid Food Company with, I don't know if you had it yet, Trisha.
So good.
So good, exactly. And they opened during this.
Yeah. I
So,
think we had it was the pork belly breakfast burrito.
oh, yeah, so good. Right?
I think it had Cheetos in it or something. I don't know. It was so good. Stupid good. And now is the time more than ever that we need to support our local restaurants. And someone shared something. It's like when you go to a local restaurant and they're just now reopening, just be patient, for the love of Pete.
Yeah.
Don't start complaining as soon as you sit down. Just go and support them. If you want them to be open in a year, go support them right now.
Yes, please do. Our wineries,
All of it. Yeah.
our wineries are struggling. Everybody's struggling right now,
Yeah.
and we need to just go support them. And we've been out to quite a few wineries and restaurants, and everyone is holding to the social distancing that we've visited so far,
Yeah.
and masking. And I know that's up for debate. People don't, but I'm just letting people. There's a lot of people that are paranoid that social distancing isn't happening and proper etiquette. I'll tell you, especially now since the mandate, we actually had to go visit Southern California too. Um, all along the West Coast, people are masking. People are, if you're worried about travelers coming into Ashland and maybe
Hmm.
spreading it,
Hmm.
people are masking, and the businesses are doing social distancing. So
I agree. I've seen
I
I've seen just nothing but really good things out of local wineries and restaurants. They're following the rules. I feel completely safe. And I've said this 1,000 times, wearing a mask is the easiest, dumbest thing you can do to help save yourself and other
right,
people. Just, it's so stupid easy. Just do it. Just do it.
yeah, I agree.
And drink your wine and
I
be
agree.
happy with it. Before we get to the final three, where can people find you? What to do in Southern Oregon?
What to do in Southern Oregon is I have my website, whattodoinsouthernoregon.com. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Google, I'm What to Do in Southern Oregon. If you follow me on my Google page, I have over 15 million views of my photos. Um, I put a lot of not just what to do here in Southern Oregon, but anywhere we travel.
Great.
Um, so yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Yeah, I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, but yeah, Instagram is where I see all the good food pics. Where I'm like, where is she? I gotta go. I gotta go find that. All right, Lanessa, let's get to the final three. Best advice you've ever been given.
I thought about this one a lot, and probably the best advice I've ever been given is not to care what everyone thinks of you, because you're not going to ever make everyone happy. And we all go, I, I think it's, I shouldn't say just as women, because I know my husband goes through this, is we go through these waves where sometimes we're like, we don't feel like we're good enough. Are we doing the right thing?
Sure.
Especially me with social media, being on social media, trying not to base my worth off of likes on my picture, that type of thing. Like sometimes I'll go through that. I'm like, what's wrong? Am I doing the wrong thing? And then especially what I do, a lot of other businesses pop up and think that they're going to do, or they want to do the same thing that I'm doing. And I just have to not let that get into my head, and just go, keep doing the way I've done. I'm successful with what I'm doing because of the way I've done it, and stay that road.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
it's your path. I had to remind myself of this the other day. Your path is your path, and just because someone else is maybe doing something similar, or maybe someone else is more successful than you, or they got this new job that's super great and you're very jealous of that. Your path is your path, and just because someone else is doing this, it doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path or you're doing something wrong. It just means it's just different.
And I have to think about that. I'll sit there and think, do I really want their path?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, why? What am I getting? What am I getting jealous of? Do I really want that? I don't.
Yeah.
Often I want my path. I love my path, and if I want a different path than what I'm doing, then I need to change me. I can't change anybody else's perspective
100%.
and what people are doing. Just what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, we could talk forever about that. What's your happy place?
Oh gosh, I think we all know that. Anywhere by water, outdoors. It can be a waterfall, a lake, a river, the ocean. If I need someplace to regroup, or even just my backyard, if it has to be outdoors.
Okay.
The happy place is outdoors.
With Skylar's vegetarian tacos.
That too, in a restaurant with a glass of good wine or beer. Or my latest thing is hard kombucha. I love hard kombuchas.
Oh, okay. I've had kombucha. I don't think I've had a hard kombucha.
Ooh, they're good.
Okay.
Really good. I tried them at the Brine Brew and Barrel Festival
Okay.
this last January at the Commons. So good.
All right.
It's just
Noted.
like a kombucha kick. Yeah, it's really good.
So, and then the kombucha just like fights all the bad stuff in your gut. So it's a win-win.
That's what I'm telling myself.
I love it. Okay, here's the big one. Final meal, final drink. What would that look like?
Okay, final drink is, I know my final drink. It's a margarita, a real margarita, craft, or not even craft, just juice, a dash of syrup, or fresh lime juice, a dash of syrup, simple syrup, and a good tequila. And that's not, and I got to give shout out to Skylar at Pomodori. Pomodori.
That boy
He makes the best margarita.
He makes the best drinks, period. I love his cocktails.
Wonderful drinks. His margarita, though, try his margarita.
Okay.
You will be blown away. There in Common Block makes a really great classic margarita on the rocks.
Look at all these shout
So
outs we're
good.
giving. I love it. Okay,
I
food.
know.
What's your meal? What's your meal?
Oh gosh, that's so hard. I was trying to think.
You can have a couple.
Like, if it was today, it would be the garlic roasted jalapeno sweet potato tacos from Truffle Pig Craft Kitchen. Or, I know I'm very specific. Um, the oh gosh, one of we love Braden. One of his omelets with that potato cake, and then he
Yes.
always puts an aioli on top.
Yes.
Those are my favorite things. He does a veggie one that I love. It's so good. I'm not vegetarian, but I really enjoy good vegetarian food.
Yeah, well, like you said, it is challenging to create yummy, super yummy vegetarian dishes. So when you do it well,
Yeah.
you take note.
Yeah. So yeah, I think those two would right at this moment. Now ask me in 2 days, it might be something different because I crave different things.
You're allowed. It's your final meal, so you're absolutely allowed.
Yes.
Lanessa, thank you so much. If you are listening to this podcast on Apple or Spotify, subscribe, rate, and review, please. And you can also watch it at ktvl.com and on YouTube. Just search Off Script with Trish Glose. One more time, Lanessa Pierce, the wizard behind what to do in Southern Oregon, sharing her secrets and her loves and her adventures. And you can find her on YouTube and Facebook. And you said Google?
Instagram, Google. I'm everywhere.
She's everywhere. So just look her up. What
Instagram.
to do in Southern Oregon. One more time. Lanessa Pierce, thank you so much. This community is lucky to have you.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you so much.